Hello BookTube, I'm here today with a book review for Independent People by Halldor Laxness. I read this as a buddy read with Josh over at Literary Gladiators, and wow. The way that I would describe it is it's like a really, really rich dessert. It's really good, but only in small doses, and you definitely can't like speed read through this, or you can't rush. You have to take your time to digest it. Because of that, I feel like this is one of those books that I'll be able to read 20 times over and I'll still find something new each time, and I'll still like not fully understand everything that I could from this book. It's absolutely exquisite. Like, it's truly a complete masterpiece. Independent People is basically, well, Halldor Laxness is a Icelandic author who won a Nobel Prize, and he is basically the Icelandic author. Before his death, he was one of the very few famous people from Iceland, and so he had huge say, and he had a huge amount of sway in their culture, and so this book, Independent People, is all about the sort of last generation of Icelandic sheep farmers before the economy turns and the and the Icelandic people turn from being farmers to primarily being working in the tourism industry. That's primarily what the economy runs on now in Iceland. And obviously Iceland is incredibly rough terrain, and it captures the difficulty of surviving in this environment, and the difficulty of like debt collectors, and of the struggles with the merchant class, and the struggles with other sheep farmers. And so it's about one man, Bjortur of Summer Houses, and he grew up and he grew up as a young man working in a rich man's house as a servant, and eventually he earned enough money to buy his own patch of land. And his whole goal in life is to be independent and to rely on no man for nothing. The way that I can best describe him is that if he kind of reminds me of like a very firm libertarian. If you're American, you're familiar with that term. Someone who seeks no involvement from outside sources to help them, and expects people to rely on their own bootstraps, and will and he's not ultimately like that compassionate or that resourceful or that intelligent, but he is very stubborn and very resilient, and that's what gets him through all these years. And so it mainly follows him like through the decades as he works on this piece of land that he has bought, summer houses, and as people come and go and die, and it's incredibly beautiful. The way that I would describe it is Bjartur isn't necessarily someone that you would like to know, but he's someone who's very interesting to read about. He's an incredibly difficult man to get along with. His family finds out. His family, he has, he is very strict about saving money and about not spending it on luxurious things, so his family lives in a state of squalor oftentimes, because he refuses to spend money on anything but his sheep. And he's very, so he's difficult to get along with, and he drives a lot of his children away, but but he's incredibly interesting to read about, and especially like, it's basically mostly about him and also the story of Iceland, but to read about one character for 400 pages and to still be interested is an incredible feat. And so this entire book is infused with Icelandic mythology and traditions, and it really is the main Icelandic novel. I learned so much about like the history of Iceland, about the mythology of Iceland while reading this, and because of that, it almost has this touch of magical realism, because the gods that are mentioned, it's never firmly mentioned whether they're real or not, or if they are real, they definitely are more into more of a agnostic type of view where they only come down every once in a while to interfere. But Bjarder is very interesting because he is both very typical for his time period and atypical. He is an atheist and he doesn't believe in these gods, but at the same time, he is the typical Icelandic man who wants nothing but to raise his sheep and is only interested in sheep and and cares nothing about revolutions or about a future beyond the one that he has. So he's a very interesting figure. And as the book goes on, we follow him for a couple of decades. We follow his wives. We follow his. He's not in a polygamous marriage. It's just some of his wives die because it's an incredibly rough terrain, and the and then we follow his children and really the thing is that the book really ends with a sort of irony, and or at least that's what I got from it, because it ends and it's all building up and Bjarder is so proud of the empire that he's built and his family, and it all crumbles away from him. And in a way, and maybe I'm just reading into things, it kind of, to me, seems like it's attempting to capture how the old ways of Iceland had just melted away. And so, like, he can't have, not a happy ending, but he can't have a final ending where he is, sheep farming, because this book captures the end of an era. Because people move on to America and they form a revolution against the merchant class, and this is the world that he belongs to is changing, and he's really the last generation that partakes in it. Honestly, like, this is the most epic novel about sheep I've ever read. I don't know what I was expecting going into it, because I knew it was it's quite dense, in case you can't see, like, on some of the pages. So sometimes it takes longer to read like a page than it normally does, or at least for me. It's quite dense, and it's something that, again, I feel like I could reread over and over again, and I would still always have something new to hear about it. And it's also filled with beautiful naturalistic imagery. Just for a sample of some of the writing, it's absolutely gorgeous. Slowly, slowly, winter day opens his arctic eye. From the moment when he gives his first drowsy blink to the time when his leaden lids have finally opened wide, there passes not merely hour after hour. No, age follows age through the immeasurable expanses of the morning. World follows world, as in the visions of a blind man. Reality follows reality, and is no more. The light grows brighter. So distant is winter day on his own morning. Even his morning is distant from itself. The first faint gleam on the horizon and the full brightness on the window at breakfast time are like two different beginnings, two starting points. And since at dawn even his morning is distant, what must his evening be? Forenoon, noon, and afternoon are as far off as the countries we hope to see when we grow up. Evening as remote and unreal as death, which the youngest son was told about yesterday, death which takes little children away from their mothers and makes the minister bury them in the bailiff's garden. Death from which no one returns, as in grandmother's stories. Death which will call for you, too, when you have grown so old that you have become a child again. And all of that is just one paragraph, and I think that really captures the exquisite beauty and Laxness's writing. And it's so filled with the culture and with the history and the mythology of Iceland, and, you know, the weather and the climate. I've also read Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, which is a novel that takes place in Iceland. And the way that someone described it is the cold is very much a character of its own, and that's definitely true in this too. The cold and and the terrain and the ecosystem are very much members of the story just as much as the people are. And you can definitely get the sense of how small the characters are in this giant, large expanse of snow and Yeah, it's absolutely beautifully done. I would really recommend this to anyone who read Burial Rites and maybe thought like that and was looking for more Icelandic literature. This is actually written by an Icelandic man, so it's great. But also anyone who's looking for sort of like underrated classics or books by Nobel Prize winners. Even though this book is absolutely spectacular, not a ton of people have read it, and it's honestly like one of my favorite books of all time. Like, it definitely captures something that it reminded me of was the kind of The Good Earth by Pearl Buck. It was all about the peasantry in China and about reclaiming the earth and about owning it and tilling it. And this kind of has this similar feel, except in a more Nordic sense, about owning the earth and tilling it and reaping from it and being so reliant upon it. And the earth is really its own. It's really this own character in the story, and it's really the pivotal point through which all the other characters relate to each other, because without it, they would be nothing. Wow, yeah, I was really blown away by this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is a little bit dense. It took me a while to get through. It's not something that you can casually pick up for like just a couple pages and keep reading. You have to really be invested in it. But I honestly feel like my life is improved for reading it. So if you are interested, read Independent People by Halldor Laxness, or check out Josh's channel, Literary Gladiators. I will leave a link to his channel down below, and let me know if you have read it down in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you, or if you're thinking about reading it or something. All right, until next time, doei!